Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. Today I watched a couple of videos with Sheriff David Clarke. I saw his speech that he gave during the Republican National Convention, and I also listened to his interview with Don Lemon. And I just want to take some time to talk about that speech and to talk about his interview with Don Lemon. Before I do so, I just want to say that there is no shortage of sellouts. There is no shortage of buck dancing, shoe shining, ass kissing Uncle Ruckuses who are willing to do anything to please Mr. Charlie. There's no shortage of these people who are willing to play the role of a tag dog for white supremacy. They will do it simply for a pat on the head and some dog biscuits. They will do it for attention. They will do it for fame. They will do it for title and position. They will do it so that they can have a white woman by their side. These people are complete sellouts. They will sell their very soul for a few dollars, for a few pieces of silver, just like Judas. This man, David Clarke, had the nerve to get in front of a predominantly white crowd. And we know the GOP is the white people's party for all intents and purposes. It's the angry white man's party. So this man gets in front of this group, the GOP, and says that it was good news that Lieutenant Rice got off in Baltimore, Maryland for the killing of Freddie Gray. He thought it was good news that another white police officer got away with the killing of a black man. This brother Freddie Gray's neck was shattered into pieces. One of the examiners described his neck as feeling as if it was a bag of rocks. That's how shattered his neck was. After he broke his neck, he was in a coma for a week and then he passed away. And somehow this Uncle Tom Coon sheriff thinks that it is a good thing, that it is good news that that police officer got away with it. Something is seriously wrong with that man's psyche. He has to have lost his damn mind. He has to have sold completely out to make such a statement. Also, when that fool was on Don Lemon's show, he had the nerve to say that there are no statistics or data to back up the notion that black people are targeted by the police. That statement is just ridiculous on its face. There are plenty of stats that talk about implicit bias, that talk about how white police officers are quicker to shoot black suspects than they are to shoot white suspects. And there's a study in the Washington Post that points out, and I've cited this over and over again, and I will keep citing it, that black men make up 6% of the population in the United States. But black men are 40% of those who are unarmed and killed by the police. 40%. That amounts to black men being 7 times more likely than white men to be killed by the police while unarmed. Also, for black people in general, unarmed black people are 5 times as likely as unarmed white Americans to be killed by the police. So it is ridiculous for this man to suggest that there is no evidence of police targeting black people. Such a statement is contrary to the facts. Such a statement is contrary to the reports and the evidence and the studies. That man is in denial. He has his head buried in the sand. He is blind, deaf, and dumb. Now, also, I want to deal with this whole black on black nonsense that people like him bring up whenever these discussions about police brutality come up. They do that to distract people. They do that to redirect or deflect and have the discussion going off left onto some irrelevant tangent. Black on black violence has absolutely nothing to do with the issue of police brutality. Black on black violence has nothing to do with police killing unarmed black people and getting away with it. So we need to reject that effort to change the discussion. And the whole notion of black on black violence is ridiculous in and of itself. So-called black on black violence is nothing but crime. And most groups of people commit violence against their own group of people. So you have whites that tend to kill other whites, and Latinos tend to commit crimes against other Latinos, and African Americans tend to commit crimes against other African Americans. People commit violence against their neighbors. And as was pointed out in a Black Lives Matter video that I saw, it talked about that, how people are segregated, so they commit crimes where they live, or in the area where they live, they commit crimes against their neighbors. So this notion that there's some special thing called black on black violence is ridiculous. Violence is violence. And the issue of black on black violence is separate. And also, the issue of black on black violence has been addressed. There are black organizations and leaders who have repeatedly addressed the issue of black on black violence. So it is a false narrative to suggest that black people aren't concerned about that issue. Also, the last thing I want to talk about is Don Lemon and his whole approach, how he handled himself during that interview with that Uncle Tom sheriff. Number one, why did CNN invite that ridiculous sheriff on their program to begin with? They know that this guy is a fool. They know that he will say and do anything to serve the interests of white supremacy. He essentially serves as a mouthpiece. He's a buffer for white racism. See, if a white man comes out and says what this Uncle Tom sheriff says, then that white man will quickly be labeled as a racist. But when a black man says these kind of things, it makes him appear to be legitimate. It makes the arguments seem to be valid, and it takes race out of the equation. So that's why they conveniently use these mouthpieces like this Uncle Tom sheriff. And, I just want to mention one thing. The fact that you had all these people in the GOP cheering on this clown when he said that it was good news that a black man essentially got no justice, that tells you a lot about the GOP. That speaks volumes about the nature of that party. And a couple of days ago, House Speaker Paul Ryan posted a photograph of all the GOP interns. And it was all white everything. That picture alone tells you about the lack of diversity within that party. It tells you about the party and its intolerance. And it exposes people like this Uncle Tom sheriff as being fools. It exposes them as being nothing but damn tokens. Because for the most part, the GOP National Convention is an all-white affair. They parade out these damn Uncle Tom tokens to create the illusion that it's an inclusive party when it isn't. Also, Don Lemon shouldn't have let that Uncle Tom sheriff dominate the discussion. He let that sheriff ask questions instead of making that sheriff answer questions. So in that interview, that sheriff turned things around and basically had Don Lemon answering questions when Don Lemon should have been the one asking the questions. It's a shame that CNN lets this kind of person on their program. CNN appears to be more concerned with ratings and controversy than they are with real news. So those are just some of the ideas on my mind about this issue. Tell me what you think. Please rate, comment, and subscribe. Peace.